2 weeks after WrestleMania, Raw was in Milan, Italy, and they opened the show. And shortly thereafter, McMahon's cutting an in-ring promo, insulting the fans. He brings out the Intercontinental Champion, his boy, Umaga. Of course, he's got Armando in tow. And he says that the ECW World Champion, Bobby Lashley, wouldn't be on this show because he couldn't make it through customs. So McMahon offers an open challenge to anyone in the back to face Umaga in a title match. No one comes out. So McMahon challenges anyone from the crowd and picks a man from the front row who's introduced as Santino Marella. Marella rather. Leading into the opening match, Lashley interferes in a match and helps Marella defeat Umaga for the Intercontinental Championship. So swerve, bro. Lashley is here and he's going to cheat or help Marella cheat. And now a guy from the crowd is your Intercontinental Champion. Big debut for Santino. And it's a nice way to continue the storyline, get the belt off of Umaga after you've had this guy with this undefeated streak. And now he's lost at WrestleMania and now losing to a fan from the crowd. Does it hurt him or is it's still just good storytelling?
It's good storytelling. Didn't hurt him. It's not destroy his career type shit. And I remember that night very well for a couple of three things. One was that I had Jerry Briscoe and I went to a place there in Milan, the hotel directed us to, that made homemade pasta. And I've had homemade pasta before, but I never had homemade pasta like that. So the food was great. And it was right next to a Dolce and Gabbana store. Funny how you remember shit like that. And I remember the cops were all over the place because there were so many bootleggers selling the bootleg WWF merchandise. Then you find out that there's not a lot we can do about it because they were connected, if you know what I'm saying. So you just didn't cross them. And, I wouldn't want to be the cop that got shot or disappeared because of an illegal t-shirt sale. So that was that. And, I remember Vince told me before the show, he said, this kid, Anthony Corelli's, was Santino's real name. And he'd done a good job in OVW. He was really smart, still is, entertaining as shit. And so, Vince said, you know what I'm going to name him? And I said, no, I'm going to name him Santino Marella after Gino, Gorilla Monsoon, whose real name was, Bob Marella. And I thought that was cool as hell.
That is cool.
Vince had tears in his eyes telling me about that story. Gorilla was just such a big part of his dad's promotion and the fabric of the WWF and so forth. I just thought that was just great. And so Santino Marella, and I think I nicknamed him the Milan Miracle. That just came up, just one of those deals where I think this, if it comes in my head, so you say it and see if it sticks. And it stuck for a long time. The Milan Miracle. The miracle was this guy from the stand out in the crowd upset this monster. It's a miracle. God damn it, it's a Milan Miracle type deal. So, it worked. But I don't think it hurt him. It made him relevant again. It got a story talking, people talking about a new story, freshen the story up, because he's still going to be Umaga, man. Still going to be Umaga.
Well, we've got big plans for him. On Backlash, we've got Umaga, Vince, and Shane wrestling Lashley for his ECW world title in a handicap match. And, they win the belt for Vince, which is kind of fun. Vince is your ECW world champ in a do-rag, which is hilarious. Umaga would continue to be involved in that feud, including a Judgment Day match where he has a return match for the ECW world title. Once again, a handicap match. This time Lashley wins though, but he didn't win the title because he pinned Shane and not Vince. So they set up a match at One Night Stand with Umaga aiding Vince in defending the ECW World Championship against Lashley in a street fight that Vince loses. Boy, this has got to be, I guess a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, it's awesome you're in a high profile spot and you're getting to work with Vince. On the other hand, boy, it probably sucks that you have to work with Vince.
Well, I can tell you this, one of the things I liked about it was when Vince was wrestling, That means he was not sitting at the gorilla position producing the announcers. So Lawler and I would look at each other and not say a word, but we both had the twinkle in our eyes that, of course, Lawler didn't get lambasted. I got lambasted for Lawler more often than not, because Vince just never jumped on Jerry's shit. I don't think Jerry would not have handled it well.
Right.
And so I got it. Stuff like, God damn it, JR, what's wrong with Lawler? Fire his ass up, God damn it. Okay. So somehow or another, in your view, your perception, Lawler's lack of productivity tonight is my fault. So that's how that works. So when Vince was a performer, it was a glorious time because it allowed Lawler and I to create our own content, much like we do on Wednesday nights on TNT. We create our own content. Tony Khan's not in our ear. Occasionally, he'll say something he wants mentioned, or he changed an idea, or something along those lines, because things are fluid. And when you do live television, things change on the fly sometimes. That's cool. But nonetheless, that was almost like a night off. It's fun. You don't have to look forward to it because you could get in your groove, you get your flow going, and hopefully the flow is good enough that the viewers like it. And it seemed like in that era, they liked it pretty good.
Let's keep it going here and talk about how Umaga in June is back in a feud with Marella. They made a vengeance on pay-per-view. Umaga is solidly in control, but loses by DQ. They do a rematch on July 2nd, and Umaga finally wins his Intercontinental Championship back. And not too long after this, he turns babyface by joining forces with John Cena against Carlito and Randy Orton. This feels weird to me. Umaga as a babyface, was he just so badass that the fans wanted to cheer him, or what's the thinking here? He's supposed to be this bulldozer heel character. He's been working with Vince McMahon as a partner. I don't know. Feels a little out of left field to me.
A little left fieldish, no doubt. But, you can go look back in time. For example, one that pops in my head is George the Animal Steel. George the Animal Steel would come out and wrestle all summer he was a high school football coach and a high school teacher. But when school was not in session, he would wrestle and pick up all those good paydays. And Vince's dad loved George because he was smart, he was reliable, and he was, big, ugly, hairy guy. And all of a sudden, George Steele became a beloved babyface. Same concept, Conrad. It's just a matter of how they're booked, how the segments are produced, and how the performers do their business. So was it left fieldish? Absolutely, but sometimes those left field shots are pretty damn good. So I think that's kind of where we were there, and then you also run into the situation where, okay, we have the ability to change the heel story, keep him as a heel, keep him on that same track, and just get him different opponents and create new scenarios, shoot angles that's going to marry him to new talent. Or you say, well, or we can just blow up that model and change tracks. Let's take another method of transportation to get to our destination. And I think that's probably the latter was probably what I'm thinking was, what more can we do with him? In that regard, there's a lot of things you could do with him. I don't agree with that, by the way. There was a lot of things we could do with him, but being a babyface was not a bad thing. And then, of course, his old rival, John Cena, being his partner was kind of unique, which obviously sets up a potential turn on John Cena at the right place at the right time. You could do that if you chose to. So I think that's what it was. The audience loved, hey, look, we're edgy, we're physical, and Umaga was all those things. And then putting him with Cena just gave him a new coat of paint and made him at least a character babyface, as Cowboy Bill Watson described him, a character babyface. So I think that's what Umaga was.